Hey, yes. Can you hear me? It's the first time for me. Live streaming. Okay. Very zen. I just lost your audio. I still can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me. Yep. Yeah, I can hear you now. How you doing? Yeah, man. Thank God, doing good. Yeah, finally went back to you know, our routine after Passover. But my son came home sick with virus today, so well, we had corona a few weeks ago. I don't know if my son never tested positive, but I think it's just like a stomach bug, like like he vomited and stuff. I started rolling already on Logic, so okay, cool. Okay, all right. Hi. I can hear you. I don't know if that makes a difference.
Hello. Okay, now y'all can hear me. Okay, so this is Ben. Hold on. Test. Y'all can hear me, right? So this is Ben. We're gonna do an episode today, but we're gonna figure out. We're gonna do another one as well later at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Right now it is 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Well, 11:07 technically. What up, MX the Golden Boy? What up? We're gonna do an episode together since Ben is all the way across the globe. I was a guest on his podcast, so I thought he'd come on and do ours. What up, Post AV Music? Good morning, or afternoon, whatever. So anyway, before we get started, Ben, so real quick, the secret with the show, or not the secret, the show is not an interview show. So like I'm not like I'm avoiding it, but I'm not necessarily going to be asking about who you are necessarily. There's going to be a little bit of that, but it's more going to be for like small talk's sake. But I'd love to teach something. So
Okay.
Is there something that... Oh, let me turn down the music. Sorry. So is there something that you like to talk about or that you feel very passionately about or anything like that? Even if it's not anything to do with the technicalities of mixing.
Sure.
Even if it's like
I mean, a
business
couple
advice
things
or
come to
like...
mind.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I think a couple things come to mind, and technically, maybe like maybe mixing power vocals, ballad vocals, lush vocals. In terms of like beyond that, I'd say like interpersonal stuff, and being a people person, and doing good communication and having good relationships with the people you work with, and also through podcasting, building relationships and stuff like that. So that would definitely be another topic that we could chat about.
Okay, cool. Let's see here. Hold on. Ooh. Hold on. Let me ping everybody on Discord real quick. I'm going to do like a surprise ping. Surprise! We're live. Hold on.
See, so this is 3 hours earlier than usual.
Yes.
Bonus episode.
WALLICK?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On Twitch. I built this new keyboard, and
I saw it on Instagram.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
It feels
looks
awesome.
awesome.
So I'm still kind of getting used to it. But
it doesn't come through the mic, so I'm assuming it's like pretty quiet.
Yeah, it's all right. It's well, I don't want like a silent keyboard. Part of the reason why I did it is for the acoustics, the nostalgic typing sounds. I wonder if I get it closer, if you can really hear it. Hold on.
Maybe.
But this is just like my
mic.
nerdy hobby, right? If
Yeah.
I do this, and hold on. What if I do this? Let me pull this up and say share screen. First off, does that work?
I don't see anything. I mean, I see the same thing. I see
Oh
you.
shoot, it does work. Okay, sweet.
Oh, I could see the infinity. Looking
Yeah,
into the
right.
abyss.
So like if I'd go in here,
Mhm.
we use cookies, by the way. All right, so like if I go in here, oh gosh. Oh, let me put my mic down too. Hold on, so you can hear it. Let me see if this. Tell me if this is coming through.
Let's see. Oh yeah, a little bit. Now it's not. At the beginning it was. I think you must have like a noise gate or something on your mic, eh?
I guess so. I thought I turned it off, but how about now? How about now?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm.
It's got a nice mid-range. At a certain point, you start to hear like rumble instead of like the clicks. But
Yeah, it's relatively quiet.
oh, this is so nerdy.
This
Monkey
is
type.
so nerdy. This is like the hold on. There's the holy infinity thing. Hold on, give me a second. Let me. Ah! There we go. It's back to normal now.
Amazing.
But
How long does it take you to build something like that kind of keyboard?
So this one was crazy. This one had like diodes and everything. Usually, some of these keyboards I don't have to like solder anything. And if I solder anything, the most solder points I have to do is like 2 per switch. So if this is like a 65 key keyboard, then like what, 130 solder points max.
Mm-hmm.
This one is special, so I had to do diodes for everything. I had to like put in like the motherboard for it. So it's and then like some LED lights, and I had this like encoder knob on it. So like this one I had to do like 350 solder points. So it took me like a solid like a focus 6 hours. I started at like 9 p.m. thinking that like, oh, I'll be done by midnight like it usually goes. And I kept going till like 4 a.m. It was still way longer than I thought.
Oh my god. You wrecked your next day.
Yeah, and most of the solder points on this one are like the tiny ones, not the regular size ones. They're like the really small ones, so that was annoying. But
Wow.
But this was a lot of fun. This is like my definitely nerdy hobby. So, okay, so first for the podcast, I would love to talk about what's up, 32 Demon, Evan, what up? What up, Elusive Labs? I can hear it. Anyway, so let's talk about I like what you were going at with communication. What if we did an episode about the benefits of having a podcast and creating content?
Sure. I mean, I don't know if I've seen as many as those benefits as you have, but definitely have seen some.
Or
Absolutely.
like because I'm sure that there's benefits even without it being like big, and mine's not even that big, right? But there's definitely, like, relatively speaking, compared to a non-music podcast. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
if that's something that we could do, but I feel like I've talked about content so many times on this show. So let's talk about communication. I think that's a good one, like client communication. I think I've talked about it a couple times in the past. I think having your perspective on it is a good one. Let's talk about that. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start
Love it.
recording now. And then we'll do like a little clap sync up. 1, 2, 3, clap.
Sure. Should I pause the recording I've done so far, or just do the sync?
Yeah, if you don't mind pausing it and then starting it back up again, so I know like to not use it before that.
Got it. Okay. I just pressed record again.
Okay. My
So
Pro
how do you
Tools
do it?
is
Do 3, 2,
recording.
1, 3, 2, 1. We both clap on 0, kind of thing.
3, 2, 1, then clap after 3. So we clap on the 4. Ready? 3,
Okay.
2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it's not perfect, but
You get the average of the claps.
yeah, somewhere around there. I mean, with the latency, it's almost no point that we do it, but whatever. All right, so my Pro Tools is running, your Logic is running. We're also recording the audio and the video directly on this Twitch stream
Twitch?
here. So first off, let me start it off. Hello and welcome back to the Mixing Music Podcast. I am your host, DK. Unfortunately, Lou is not with me for this episode. He's working on some other stuff right now, but he will be back live on a later episode. We are live on Twitch right now. This is like a surprise bonus episode because our guest today, Ben, is all the way in Israel. I don't know how to.
Israel is great. Yeah.
Israel, and then we're doing the whole podcast with a new guest today. We love doing these. We try to release podcast episodes with a guest at least once a month, around once a month. Is kind of the pace that we'd love to go at. And Ben has another podcast himself called Secret Sonics, which we'll have him talk about a little bit later, where I was a guest on his podcast. And I was like, well, dang, let's have you be a guest on ours, kind of a deal. So
Yeah.
we're going to have a lot of fun on this episode. We're both experienced tangent goers. And
I love it.
this is going to be a fun episode. So welcome, Ben, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, DK. Appreciate it. I loved your episode on my podcast, and it's fun to be here with your crew. My name is Ben. I'm a music producer, mixing engineer, podcaster based out of Jerusalem, Israel. Been at it for a bit over a decade. It's been fun.
Yeah,
slowly doing the thing, you know?
You anybody listening right now should definitely check out that Secret Sonics podcast episode. I know we did like 2 hours of talking, and it's a deep dive into, for the first time ever, like specifically about me, and not necessarily we talk about mixing and whatnot. But it's a very interesting episode. He's got a lot of other guests. I know that you just came out with an awesome guest, and you have many awesome guests on your show. How long have you been doing your show?
Man, I've been doing it since July of 2019. I think I officially released the first episode.
So you have a little over 100 you have about 150 episodes?
Coming up on it. Yeah, 142. I took a couple 2-week breaks. You know, I think at episode 100 and 125, I took, a couple weeks off. I started taking some more space for myself. And now that I've kind of delegated editing to someone else, it's given me a lot more breathing room. But yeah, long story short, I've been at it for a while.
There's 142 other episodes, so definitely worth checking out. You have a lot of time on it, and yours are more long form and with a bunch of interviews, and it's a lot of fun. So definitely go check that out. I'll leave
Thanks, man.
a link to that in the description, whether you're listening on Apple or Spotify. It's in the description of the episode. You can check that out. All right, so today we wanted to talk about communication with clients and why that's important. We've talked about it briefly on the show before in other episodes. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that this is something that I make a very big deal out of, and is honestly potentially more important than your actual mix. like how you communicate, how you set up expectations, how much they learn to trust you. There's
Mm.
so much more that we can get into. Ben, what is it about communication with clients that feels so important to you, or has shown to be important through your experience?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it actually on your episode on my podcast, and you kind of talked about instilling confidence in people, and that's something that I've noticed is kind of the more confident I am in telling them this is great, the more happy people are to kind of move on with the song and take it and release it and sign off on it. But communication is everything. I really I'm a people pleaser. I'm the oldest child, so I kind of have that ingrained in me, I guess. But I'm always trying to make my clients happy. I'm always trying to communicate what's happening. And, I've learned from, obviously we all make mistakes, especially at the beginning of our journey of, not communicating everything and not saying everything up front right away, not being direct, and, maybe avoiding money stuff. Like all these things need to be upfront, out of the way, at the very beginning. That way, everything else is smooth sailing. You know what I mean? Communication is everything. And, we've all made those big mistakes, but
Yeah.
it's been a slow journey, but eventually you kind of get the hang of it. And I think now I have a pretty good grasp on, at the beginning of the beginning of the process. How do you explain what you're doing? What are the stages in the production? Starting with recording, moving to mixing, editing, mastering, like guiding people. They don't necessarily know everything. Sometimes they do if they're experienced or if they've worked with you before, but sometimes you just have to give it all away at the beginning and just say, this is how it works. So people know what to expect and there's no surprises, just laying it all out on the table kind of thing.
Yeah, sometimes it totally depends on like the level of client. For example, like a new artist that has never really done music before, you're gonna have to do a lot of educating on what a mixer may do or how to deliver files, etc., etc. It's in general, I do believe that like over communication is better than not communicating enough. Always, even if it gets annoying, it's still worth it. And there are many, and I feel like for me, systems is a way that I try to eliminate the actual, like, because communicating takes
Mm.
time. And if there's any way that I can communicate stuff without actually having to do an email chain, for example, like with file prepping and how to send me files, I have a PDF. So I just send them this 5-page PDF. I should make a video about it, and send them the video if I had one as well. And systems can help you save a lot of time and make sure that things are communicated. I know that like with my own assistants and my team at the studio, we have like Trello, which has like deadlines. So these are different systems where I communicate everything, but without having, so it shortens the length of the communications and portrays everything. So we're not missing any details, right? I want to
Yeah.
briefly talk about something super easy, and I think most beginners kind of forget, is communication about money and like the business side of this. I mean, most people in the music industry are very creative, non-aggressive, non-assertive. So talking about money is sometimes awkward. It feels weird. How important is it to talk about money up front?
Oh, it's so important. And at the beginning, you're afraid to tell people, this is actually what it costs. Or if they say, is this really the price? Then maybe you balk and you say, oh no, I could give you a little bit of a discount, and you start, betting against yourself. And it's so important to say what you're worth with confidence, because then people will, 9 times out of 10 not give you a hard time about it, and set the terms and be like, yo, this is 50% down, 50% at the end, or I don't know. So different people have different
Whatever your
ways that
terms
work
are,
for them.
yeah.
Yeah, whatever your terms are. I usually do the 50-50 thing. Seems to work. People get invested once they've spent that first amount of money, and then once I've delivered a product, they're happy to pay me the end of it. You know what I mean? That's what to each their own. But saying this is how it works. This is when you pay me. This is how much it costs, and being very confident with that. And I'm still kind of getting there, but I've definitely improved over the last few years of just this is what it costs. And if
Have you ever
if
made
there's
like a big mistake where you learned some big lesson?
oh, that's a good question.
Because I have a good one too. If you
Yeah,
while you're
I definitely
brainstorming.
I have a good one. That's yes, I do have a good one. And so there was a time where I tried to experiment with tiered pricing for production, and I learned really hard that just does not work. Maybe it's because of how I work, but it was just horrible. And I think it really set me back like maybe a year, to be honest. Uh, but I was like, okay, so I have like, kind of like the demo tier. I have like, the basic, the regular tier, and I have like the, I'll do everything for you tier. And I kind of like made out this like pricing list and set up the 3 tiers because, people talk about 3-tier pricing, which it works for a lot of things. Obviously, it works really well on the internet, for courses or whatever. But for music production, at least the way I work, where I'm kind of like a perfectionist and I really try to work with the artist to get a product that everybody is super happy with. It was just kind of not a good situation. And I worked with an artist and we made a really cool track. And she just kept wanting to do more stuff, but she had paid for only the demo thing. And then we're out of hours, and we're out of time. And I want a good product for my portfolio, and she wants a good product to release. And the whole thing became like really problematic. 'Cause demos are hard. Like doing, and just in general, it's like it's kind of hard to do a demo unless it's an hourly rate, because otherwise people always want to do more. And so for production, I just kind of learned you got to just charge whatever it costs, and just stick with that price, and say like, no, it takes me this much time to do it. I put a lot of heart and soul, a lot of emotional energy, emotional labor. It's an emotional labor, especially music production. Like, you get into a deep relationship with the artist you're working with, and you care about it, maybe not as much as they do, sometimes more than they do, depending on what level of their career they're at. And so, you got to just kind of say, this is what it costs, because I know how long it takes me and how much energy I'm going to put into it. So there's really no trimming those edges. And I learned that kind of valuable, really hard lesson of trying to charge, a tiered thing and doing a demo rate for someone who didn't have a lot of money to pay. And it ended up just like kind of totally backfired. I don't think she ever released the song.
Mm.
Yeah,
So it's really
basically.
interesting. Like, I'm a huge fan of experimenting, like telling everybody that's listening right now, like, experiment and try things. Like, if you want to try running a discount and see if that works, try it. Because I can ask you right now, with your mistake that you said supposedly like set you back around a year, right?
Yeah.
Like, approximately speaking, and maybe you don't want to share, but approximately speaking, how much was that mistake worth? Meaning, how much would you have paid to learn that mistake a year or two earlier?
Mm.
Like,
Back on it, I would say it to just do the extra work, make the product right, have a lesson. So rather than being, a hard ass about it, like, okay, this is what you paid me for, I can't really do more. If I had just said, you know what, this song is really cool, let's buckle down and do this the way everybody's going to be happy, and just accept whatever fee it was, and let's get it, on my portfolio, your, Spotify account. Like, let's do it. Like, that would have been a way better way to go about doing it. And so, having now learned the lesson, I'm not going to do that again. But while I was learning that lesson, if I had been more flexible, I could have just eaten that money and dealt with it. You know what I mean? It just I didn't go. I was novice. I was experimenting, and I was too inflexible about learning. You know what I mean? I guess that's the problem of being a perfectionist, right? Like, I
absolutely.
don't know if you're a perfectionist like quite like I am, but um, you know, yeah, you got to do things right, and don't be such a hard ass. Be flexible.
Yeah. There's definitely been, so I'm, again, try things, always experiment. I mean, even if I say I don't like a microphone, or I don't like a compressor, I don't like a certain tool, like, you should try them and figure out even better, right? So, for example, one thing that I've learned is we don't have discounts on my stuff very often. Discounts don't really do what I want for it to work. I don't get more influx of work. I just get cheap people coming back in. Like, that's just at least the way when I do it. So it's just not worth it. But if you can't expand unless you're experimenting. So I definitely recommend trying that out. Also, there's about money specifically that I want to talk about is one of the things that I see a lot of people do that feel awkward about money and talking about money. And I've said this in the past, where if you don't talk about price and cost before you do the work, then you do the work, just be like, you're vibing, you're in the session, and then you, after the work is done, you talk to them, oh, by the way, that work was this amount of money. That's theft. If you want to, that's not, you're screwed. You're done. So, like, what you need to do, and I've literally had death threats over this. Like one of my assistants did this.
Wow.
It was bad. One of my assistants did this to two different clients. My old assistants that I no longer work with, and he did the same thing where he talked about the money after it was done. Like it was bad. It was a mess.
That's
And and it became into a dangerous situation. You definitely don't want to do that. It's rude. It's theft. I don't think that it's worth it. That's why you always want to talk about it before, even
Yeah,
if it's
it
some
sounds
violent thing.
extreme the way you're saying it. It's theft, but it really is, The client has to know exactly what they're getting themselves into, you
Yeah.
know, what they're expected to pay.
And of course, the client, I mean, if you think about it from the consumer's perspective, of course, they're not really going to talk about it. Maybe they're wondering, and of course, like maybe they think that it's free because you haven't brought it up. Which, if you haven't brought it up, then it's in their right to think it's free. Like actually, because oftentimes with music, there are a lot of free things, that pro bono things that, like honestly, we're just doing it for the sake of because it's fun, because it is fun, you know.
Right.
So
Sometimes you're vibing with an artist and you're trying to see if it's a good fit, and you're in the room and you're rocking out to music, and next thing you know, like it's like, okay, what's this going to cost? And that's an awkward surprise.
yeah. So at the very least, even if all you say is, hey, we're going to have fun, we're going to vibe, we're going to figure out how much it costs later. But I'm letting you know that it's going to cost something. It's not going to be free. Like, even just letting them know up front is still going to be better. And not the best unless you had like an exact price, whether it's per hour or per project or whatever. But like
Right.
bringing it up that it's going to cost something is it's going to save you a lot of hassle, a lot of time for the artist. Here's another thing that I've discovered. I used to do, I've done before, is the idea of, oh my gosh, it's flying away from me. Oh, I might need to edit this out. Is
happens to me once an episode at least.
oh, that's
so
I remember.
you're
I'm
forgiven.
gonna snap and remember. Leslie taught this all the time during our Mix with the Master seminar. Leslie Brathwaite. Every single piece of communication has to be written down. So there's a couple pieces of advice that I make when basically doing some sort of like written contract. First off, Leslie says never ever make deals on the phone or talk about pricing on the phone. Like always do it through text, and even if you do it on the phone, send them a text afterwards saying, as per our agreement, I will be doing this many songs for this pricing exclusive for you. I would also like to add another bonus step on top of this, which is set an end date. So, for example, have you done this, Ben, where it's like, I know you've done this, everybody's done this, where it's like, hey, man, yeah, I'll do this for half price for you. They're like, okay, dope. And it sounds like they're going to send it to you next week, but they don't send it to you till a year later and expect you to do half price a year later. When all of a sudden, maybe you're really, really busy, or like you can't afford to do that anymore. This happens, right?
Yeah. Not
So,
exactly like that, but yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it's like this does happen. So like for me, whenever I make a deal or whenever something is going on where I've communicated it, not only do I let them know via text or email that I have some sort of paper trail of the exact terms, I also set an end date. I will do this much until August 31st, 2022. And then first off, it's great because then now I put a fire under their ass. Like I'm forcing them. There's like a rush thing with the client. And second off, if it's past that time, I go back to them and be like, yo, it's past the due date. Sorry, can't do it for you. I'll probably still do it, honestly speaking. But
Yeah. I mean, that also depends on the relationship with the artist. And if it's a good relationship, you know what I mean? That could be something that's like, okay, cool. Like, I know you, I trust you. This is great. Let's do it. I know, even though I told you this deadline, let's just keep at it because I want to do it. I want to work on the song. I love it. I think it's great. And if sometimes it gives you a chance to see if there's red flags and maybe it's not worth budging on, because those red flags come up and I think they're usually pretty obvious
So
by the time you get there.
with you, do you have like a set of like rules and terms or like policies on your website or anything at all?
No, I don't have anything. The truth is, by the time I'm getting into negotiations, let's call it, with an artist, it's usually like I trust them, they trust me. I also like you said, like not giving quotes over the phone. I try to bring an artist into the studio. I mean, especially for producing, less about mixing. Mixing is more of like, okay, this is my price, and it just includes the mix basically. But in terms of production, it's like, okay, you're gonna come to the studio. We're gonna see if it's a good fit, and we'll probably only start with one song, and once you've come to the studio and I see that it's a good fit and you seem like a trustworthy person, I'll only then I'll quote you a price if it's something that I think would be, with production, I'm like very hesitant to just take any old project. I really want to make sure that it's an artist I want to work with, I feel comfortable with, and so I've kind of like have I just use my own radar to kind of determine if this is somebody I want to work with and trust, and if they're cool. Um, and by the time I'm in negotiations or just telling them the price, it's like pretty clear that I trust this person, and I'll give them terms of like you should pay me half up front, or you should pay me this. And at this point, I don't really have those issues anymore. I used to, but at this point, I feel like I have my spidey senses are honed in enough, and I've kind of already wined and dined them before I've quoted them a price, if that makes sense. At
Yeah,
least on the production end of things.
with
And,
something
and
so custom and individual as production, and granted, I'm not trying to say that mixing is not, but I think production is definitely more of like a vibe communication thing, and for both parties, right? Not just for you, or not just for the artist talking to you whether they want to hire you, but for you as a producer wondering if you can do the artist justice in the way that they want.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It has to be a good fit on both sides of the equation for sure. And I think we talked about this also of like referring somebody else if you don't think you're the person that's right for the job. Saying like, this is cool, but it's not really my thing. I think, my buddy John can help you out. He's also in Jerusalem, and he's great. Or maybe it's somebody else, whatever, whoever it is. And therefore you've kind of like John, my buddy in Jerusalem, John Friedlander, he sent me like nightmare clients of his that have been great clients for me. And I've sent him clients that were not a good fit for me and were great for him. So having that kind of other people, to kind of pass things on to is super, super great. And I totally want to, if the artist isn't going to be best served by me, then I should probably turn it down or tell them so. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's
Yeah,
because like
so important.
the word of mouth is so valuable where even if you're really good, it's just not a good fit. Like working through it, struggling through it, and make like not it being the best time and them not having the best experience is not worth the money you would have made for them on that one project for the long term. It's
Yeah,
kind of like
totally.
I may have worded that weird, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But on that note, like letting your artists have a good experience with you, I think is so important. And maybe this is more of a producing thing than a mixing thing, but so I forgot who was talking about this recently on the podcast, but it really like made me realize how good of a time you have to let people have, because it's such an important experience for the people that are coming in and working with you. And I could be a bit of I could be a bit of a drill sergeant when it comes to like vocal takes, and like, no, you got to do that again, let's get the inflection better. But sometimes you have to remember like they're having like this is like a special experience for them, and there's something that they're going to remember forever, and like let them really enjoy this. And maybe that's more important even necessarily than being a drill sergeant. Depends on the on the client and what the song is. But anyways, just on that note,
Yeah.
made me think of that.
And another thing too about communication, especially like the business side, the money side of stuff, I do think that you have like in order like again, I can't stress enough with like over communication. So for example, like you may not have policies and you may not have terms or whatever, which is a great position to be in because it's such a white glove service. We could talk about what it means to be a white glove service to begin with.
Yeah.
But there's probably been times where people have found loopholes, or like, for example, something that like you didn't want to do. For example, I still need to
Mm,
change my PDF of what I send my clients and add, hey, if you want revisions, that's free. But if you want me to replace half the files and remix them, that's not free.
right.
Where what people will find these loopholes where like I just didn't have to do it, or like it hurt me in the long run, both in money and in time, because I didn't set that expectation before. And how are you to expect the consumer to know that I didn't offer that or I charged extra for that, right? So I'm wondering, in your case, has
Yeah.
there ever been experiences where like a client finds a loophole, forces you to do something because there wasn't set expectation or because something wasn't communicated, and how do you overcome that in the future? How do you resolve those in the future?
Man, that's a good question. I can't really remember anything specific at this point, because I think a lot of those hurdles I've been through, and a lot of the people that hire me to mix are producers that I consistently work with. And so we have a working relationship. And if something has gone beyond the scope, they're usually aware of it and thanking me, or maybe like, hey, can I just throw in a little bit extra because I know this is a lot. And then it's like you send me a lot of business, so like don't worry about it. It's on me. You know what I mean? That like, that's a lot of the
There's
stuff
a
that usually goes
respect, which
over.
is nice.
Yeah, 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 totally. And that I'm lucky in that regard. And maybe it's because I don't do a ton of mixes for strangers. Like I do a lot of I mix a lot of my productions, and I mix for consistent, like a lot of like people that I consistently work with. And I'm trying to get more work, mixing for strangers, so to speak, over the internet. But I'm not 100% there yet. So I don't have a ton of experience working with people that I really don't know anything about. And so I've been able to kind of set the terms, orally, basically. And when things go above whatever that I think is a normal expectation, it's usually like, yeah, this is like a bit beyond what is usually implied. Um, and so maybe we need to talk about something else. Like I don't give people a hard line on revisions. My revisions are free. I want the client happy, and I like doing revisions because I think revisions lead to a better product. I truly believe it. Like sometimes you could say that the artist is sometimes wrong on a mixed revision, but sometimes we get two or three revisions later, and then all of a sudden the song has opened up in a whole new way. So I truly believe in revisions because the artist knows the song better than you as like a mixer, and they know what they want, and when they're happy, that's what the song is supposed to be. So I don't really make limits on revisions. I don't know if I've ever gotten past like, I don't know, 10 or something, but I'm happy to do it because revisions don't usually take me very long, and I'm making the client happy. Um, I guess things that are a bit above the scope I'm thinking about are like, I had a client who's a friend of mine, and like, who asked me to print stems for an album that I had mixed like 6 months prior, and we never talked about printing stems, and maybe I should have done it at the time, and I didn't. Um, and the truth is, I haven't even gotten to that yet. Like, it kind of fell off the radar, but I'm sure it'll come up again. And at a certain point, it was like, listen, I gave you a cheaper rate on the mixes because we did the whole album and we did all this stuff. And at this point, it would be a lot more work for me to do. So, I'll just like give you a discounted hourly rate, and we'll get the stems out. If he asks me for that, I'll do it. Until he asks me, I'm not going to do it. But
Cool.
but yeah, it was like, oh, okay, now doing all the stems like 6 months later, that's kind of beyond. And he was like, yeah, if I have to pay you a little extra, I totally understand. But that is something that should definitely be set up in terms. And hopefully, as more strangers hire me to mix, I will definitely need to talk to you about setting up more terms.
And I
If that
think
makes
that
sense.
partially goes into like the type of clientele that you build. I mean, I'm a huge believer of like raising children and like that you like, not raising children that you don't like. And I feel like to a certain degree, you create the clientele that you want. For example, we no longer, at one point, we used to allow smoking in the studio. As soon as we stopped allowing smoking in the studio, granted, in the short term, there was a bit of a drop off with business. But all of our problem and hassle that usually surrounds people that specifically want to smoke in the studio went away, and we're trying to, I have an avatar, right? Or like a perfect clientele
Right.
that I want.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you've been able to do a good job where you communicate that and you don't accept things, that you've been able to slowly like build your own clientele to be those that are respectful.
Yeah. 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 I would totally say that's true. And yeah, having that avatar is totally exactly what I have thought about at some point. I don't think about it these days as much. Maybe I should do it again. But there was a time where I was like, okay, this is the kind of client I want to be working with. And you kind of try to, when you have a client that matches those, that ticks off those boxes, you just make sure that this is, like, I don't know, you give it 110%, and you try to like cater even more to that kind of a client. Not that you should ever give anybody less than 100%, but even more so, and just doing whatever it takes to kind of keep those kinds of clients around, so to speak.
Absolutely. And it's getting to the point where like I'm very grateful that I'm in a position where I can do this. But going back to what you were saying, where like for the sake of the client, I say no to about half of the people that ask me to work with them. Typically
Wow.
based around typically based around the vibe that they give me on their email, the initial reach out, whether it's like some like stingy rapper dude that just like is looking to just get as much out of it as for as little as possible, and or like if they're going to be ultra picky and very insecure the entire time, because I'm not going to be able to do my best service for them. I'm not going to, which is again instilling them with confidence, as we've talked about on your podcast episode. I'm not going to be able to do that, and I'm not fully convinced that, so it's like it's a combination of everything here, but it does get a little bit weird. All right, we're going to take a little break. I need to pee really, really bad, and I'm not going to be able to give you my full attention unless I pee right now. I want to finish up by talking about like what it means to be a white glove service and defining white glove, and then I want to talk about communication in your field. It's like far as production, like what it is to communicate creatively with the client. So those are the last two things I want to talk about, and then we'll probably finish the episode. I'm going to pee real quick to keep talking to the audience because you're still live.
Okay, how do? If anybody, I need to figure out if anybody has any questions.
If anybody has any questions, you could just go on twitch.tv/DK Mixes, DEEKEI Mixes, and then you can see if anybody's commenting.
Wait, twitch.tv
/DK Mixes, DEEKEI Mixes. If you have any questions for Ben while I'm peeing, I mean, it's only going to be like 30 seconds, but ask him right now.
I'm here. Oh, I've seen the latency here. If anybody's got questions, I'm here. I'm hanging out. Got 3 people here, so maybe I'll play a song or something, Gotta grab the guitar.
Sorry.
No problem. For half a second I was like, let me just grab a guitar and play a song, and I realized, be back in 10 seconds.
Sorry about that. Also, I just realized there's like only like one person watching right now, so.
Nice.
We're
all right, I'm gonna close out this Twitch thing.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Okay, we're gonna get back into it.
Latency.
I'm gonna clap again just to mark the edit points.
Okay. Perfect.
To wrap up our business communication, I want to talk about what it means to be a white glove service. I've talked about this on previous episodes, but it is a very important distinction. For example, Ben, you are not produceyoursong.com and random people come up to you. You know what I'm saying? And your selling point is your price. That's not what we are. We're what we call a white glove service in the industry. White glove services ensure high value, fragile, or one of a kind services handled carefully and delivered safely to their destination. So it's like it's very, very one per one. For example, Rolls-Royce is a very white glove service. You design everything in that car. The interior, the color, the fabric, the options, and the different things. That is your unique thing, and you're the only one that can do it, right? That's a very white glove experience. We're buying a Honda off the lot, although you may have some customization options, not really white glove. It's still very general enough that they can just build it, right? We're a very white glove service in the sense that each client that I work with is a very one-per-one situation. How I mix this song is not how I'm going to mix the next song. It's not how I'm going to communicate with the next person. It's not how I'm going to deliver the files to the next person potentially. And there has to be a lot of communication, which is why communication is so damn important with our industry, because everybody should be. It's case by case. And our value is not our pricing. There's always going to be someone on Fiverr on SoundBetter that's cheaper, right? It's because of that communication, which is why part of the reason why I talk about how you communicate with clients and how they feel is significantly more important than the deliverable, the mix. Because if they really just wanted the mix, they would have gone to someone that was much cheaper. It's not. And it's because I believe in them, right? It's because I want them to win. It's because they're getting a new team member that wants to see them win. These are all different reasons.
Yeah.
In your case, you're a producer, right? You're also a producer, which is even more white glove, right? Tastes are super duper important. How are you able to communicate your different creative expressions to the client?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess the beginning of any production meeting is hey, let's listen to what the music you love. Let's do a little bit of a listening session. Let's go on Spotify or YouTube and find songs that you love and see if this is something that I vibe with. Is this something that I can help you with? Is this like a direction that I can do? Kind of like we were talking earlier. Is this the right fit for me? And if it is something that I think I can do, then that's great. And then we move on. And then I'm very flexible. Like I worked with this artist who's a teenager, and she was showing me some like Olivia Rodrigo and all kinds of like new stuff. And the first day out of the studio was like one production. We did like 3 hours, and I had a demo of a vibe, and it was and she came back to me and she said, like, I actually don't really like this. I need it to be a little bit harder. I need it to sound a bit more punk rock. And it was just like, okay, cool. Like, let's just switch directions, because even though I thought it was cool, that's not what you want. It's your song. And so for me, I just had to be flexible and switch it around. And we went a completely different direction, with more guitars and, more rock drums and less like four on the floor kind of thing that I had started off with. And it was just like, this is your song. And, but this is still something that I can do. So it's just like, okay, you're the boss. This is your music. So I kind of just am able to, if it's something that I can pull off, I'm kind of happy to kind of go in the direction of the artist and, listen to what they do. And if I think it's something is important, I'll obviously speak up. At the beginning of the production, it's like a bit more drastic, right? It's like, okay, this is the vibe. Is it going to be this vibe, or is it not going to be? There was another artist I worked with recently where it took me like 4 tries to get the production right. And I'm happy that it took that many times. Like we did, she sent me the song. I couldn't quite figure it out. I kind of did a shot in the dark. She wasn't happy with it. I did a different thing. Still wasn't happy with it. Third time, I thought it was cool. Didn't like it. And then the fourth time, I was like, oh, this is it. And it was like, okay, because she had this. This was like a little bit of a bizarre project, because she had kind of recorded these demos, and I kind of had to take her a cappella vocal and just reproduce around it, almost like a remix. And it was kind of like, oh, she had these. One of the synth parts was an important melody. And so I just recreated it and made it sound a bit more organic, and with like glockenspiel and like clean electric guitars and stuff. And it was like, oh, all of a sudden the song came to life, and she was super happy. And I'm really happy with how it came out. And so it was just about being open to hearing what the artist had to say and committing to that. I feel like when I'm producing and it's a white glove service, kind of like you're saying, this is not like dime a dozen, I'm very much making the record you want me to make. And so if you're not happy, we're going to go back and do it again and start over. And it was hard. It was hard to start over that many times. I don't think I've ever started over that many times. But it, in the end, the product was great because of that. And she felt comfortable telling me that, and I was happy to abide, because again, it's her song, and this is how I work. And so I'm probably still not charging enough money for that, but it's not like cheap. You know what I mean? Like you do have to, it's customized work. So it's like, it's if you're hiring like someone to do your logo on Fiverr for $5, you're going to get something that's very generic. And if you hire somebody who learns about what your company's about, your brand, and really takes the time to do it, then they'll do a lot more research and kind of get that logo that really speaks to the story of what you're about. And so the same thing with the song, and it's about finding what the artist is really, how the artist is trying to express their art. So like in both of those stories, I'm so happy that they pushed me to change things, and I'm happy I was open to hearing it. And so that's kind of been a lesson for me of just, I've learned that, and this has already been a while that I've learned this, but Like, if you're a hard ass and you're not really open to the collaboration of the artists you're working with, you're not really gonna get a product that everybody's happy with. And I've had projects fall through because the artist wasn't happy and they weren't comfortable either communicating it with me, or I wasn't happy to kind of do the extra work twice, and things just kind of don't go anywhere. And I got to a point where it's like I'd rather get the product right than stand up to my principles or whatever. And that kind of flexibility is something that is, I guess, a big lesson that I learned, and it's something that I carry with me through all of my projects. And that's kind of, I think, why people hire me, is because they know Ben is good at communicating, good at talking about every stage of the process, and is flexible and is listening and is there. You know what I mean? So that's really my whole. That's how I've built my whole career, I think, over the last, like, let's say 5 years.
Yeah.
So,
It's got to be super custom, and this is one of those things where there's a fine line where you want to charge enough where no matter what they ask for, even if it's something ridiculous, that it was still worth your time, right? But you want to charge little enough that more people are, depending on like the demand of the market, right? The supply and demand of the market, where you still meet the supply needs or the demand needs. Sorry, you meet the demand needs of your marketplace.
Yeah.
There's another thing too, where no matter what, and I think you did a very good job in this example. I think it's super important because we all know word of mouth is usually the best thing for business, and is the best advertising.
Right.
If we, the best thing to do is no matter what, whether it feels like it's worth your time or you're upset about it, there's never an appropriate time to not give 110%. Even if you agree to do a free work, and it ends up being way more work than you were willing to do for free, there was no point of doing that free work if you weren't willing to do it 110% all the way through.
Yeah, and that happened to me also not that long ago, like 6 months ago. I did something pro bono, and I thought I did a great mix, and they weren't happy, and I had to change it. And the truth is, I didn't like the final mix nearly as much, but they were happy, and that's the same mindset of giving it that 110% because that's what the client wants. And so that's the type of service I offer, and so that's what they're going to get, like that 110%, like you said, is so important. And like just like with mixing also, I don't know if you do this, or I don't remember if you told me, but like with mixing, like I try to get like a vibe before I don't go hard on my final mix, right? I think you told me that you also are kind of send out like a feeler of like, this is the direction, and correct me if I'm wrong. So I kind of get a mix to like 80%, I'll put in an hour or two and get it to like where I think this is a good direction for the mix before I do all the intense automation and kind of, burn all my bridges in terms of like where the mix is headed, and try to get that feedback from artists. And before I go hard, because I just want to make sure this is the right direction and don't go too far down the path,
Yeah, I think that's actually a really, really great idea. I've done that before, and that's why I like having clients in the room with me so they can participate, or like on the Zoom call or whatever. I love it when clients are sitting in the room with me while I mix. I know it's super boring. I'm aware that like for watching it may be kind of boring, but like at least having them, because it does two things. It makes them feel like they're part of the process, which is a big, do I dare say, power move, like allowing them to feel some sort of power over the song, which makes them feel more connected to it. But as well as like for the actual feedback, because same thing, like I should be in a position where I also love revisions and I also want to help deliver what the client wants. I don't typically do that though. I don't do like the feeler mix. I usually give them 100% from there and then tweak from there if they have any revisions. Although I've done it before in the past. It works well. And if you're listening right now, that's something, again, worth experimenting, seeing if that's worth it for you. I think part of the reason why I don't is because it doesn't save me that much time. It's just, I'm just super fast anyway. Never had a need for it yet. But that being said, I think that it's super duper, again, with all this communication talk, dare I say, I was talking to, I think it was an intern or something like that, and we were talking about communication literally just a few days ago. And I said, he asked the question of like, how do you get like more satisfied clients or whatever? something along those lines, and I like estimated. I was like off the top of my head, I was like 10 to 30% is the actual mix, and the rest is communication. Like how much they trust you, how much you're able to build that trust. Like, and for example, saying things like one small minuscule micro things, for example, is I always offer unlimited revisions. But here's how I present it, right? I don't say, hey, I want what's best for you. The classic approach, right? Hey, I want this best for you. And it doesn't matter how many takes it's going to try, we're going to get it there. And that's appropriate. I think that's a classic appropriate approach. The approach that I find that clients appreciate more is the cocky approach. Hey, I do unlimited revisions mostly because I know you're not going to need more than a couple.
Yeah, I like
which,
that.
the reason why that works is because
Yeah.
if you need a barber, right? You cut your hair. If the hair's about me, right? The song is about the artist. When I'm about to get my hair cut and my hair is for me, I'd rather have a barber that's cocky to a certain degree. Like, not ignorant, which you can tell, but like, yo, I'm going to get you're going to be looking so nice. Like, we're going to get it so good. Oh, like, I'm going to make you the most handsome you've ever been. I promise that. It's going to be way better than too many questions. Like, oh, what do you want out of this? Oh, like, how your hair, like, specifically, what shape do you want? And this and this and this, which can be good. But I mean, the point was, if the dude, and the difference between cocky and arrogant is if an arrogant person will be like, I'm the best. This is me. This is my time. Where a cocky, confident person will say, I'm going to make you look the best. You're handsome. You're going to walk out feeling confident ever. So there's also a subtle nuance.
You keep it about the artist, but you convey that confidence of like, don't worry, I got this. I'm going to get it right.
Yeah. So like, have you noticed with your clients and whatnot, where like there's been times where you being cocky or being extra confident has been necessary for the client?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, definitely. Just especially when like saying that it's done, like this is great. Or like when we get the master back, I'm like, no, I love it. Let's like, you're done. You're good. You don't have to question every single, like, for sure.
How
Yeah,
often do these? How often? Sorry. Continue your sentence. I apologize.
No, that's it. That's basically it.
I was gonna
No,
say,
what
how
were you
often do
gonna
your production sessions turn into like therapy, where you're the therapist now?
Oh man, definitely sometimes. Yeah, definitely. It depends on who I'm working with. Yeah, it definitely a lot.
You're good enough. This is art. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very fine balance, the whole therapy thing, because you kind of you need to let them feel it, and you also got to instill confidence, and you have to like read the situation in the room, and sometimes you can go one way or the other way. And man, I'm a psych major from college, but I don't use any of that stuff. It's just interpersonal skills and just vibing and seeing what needs to be said. And yeah, how about yourself?
Oh yeah, often. And I would say that that's part of the selling point of my service, right? I mean,
you pay for the mix, but you get free therapy, so it's worth it. Therapy's expensive also, you know.
But for real though, like, again, I said this on your episode, which again, anybody listening right now should check out, Secret Sonics, right?
Episode 141 with DK Waddell.
There you go. As we talked about, I really believe, and I think this is a healthy mindset to have as a mixer, is I'm really here to instill confidence in my clients. Like, and a mix is one way to do that. But I think oftentimes it's more than that. It's the communication that we've been talking about this entire episode. I want to set the right expectations. I want to communicate and make sure that they're setting the right expectations. I want to deliver what they're expecting and even over-deliver what they're expecting, go above and beyond. And I want to make sure that they can trust me, because to a certain degree as a mixer, I'm being confident about something that they're paying me to be confident about something that they can't be. They're not, if they were confident enough to mix themselves, which we've talked about on the episode that we did on your show, I think is like, you don't have to have something mixed. Like, you can just release it, but there's a lack of confidence somewhere in that, in that process, or like they don't want to do it, or they feel inadequate. They may not be, but they feel inadequate. and they're paying me to overcome their felt inadequacies.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah,
that's how I
so
perceive
good.
my job to be.
Yeah, it's so good. It's such a great point for your listeners. And when you said that on my podcast, I thought that was, I mean, that's why I made it one of the highlights. Is it's just so important. And Sam Moses also talked about this on my podcast. He's a mastering engineer out of Nashville, and he says he gets paid to instill that confidence and say the record is done. That's what the mastering engineer says. Okay, it's over. Like, you did this. And that's why, beyond the added sonics that they add to the song, they're giving you that seal of approval that this can be released to Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your music. um and so that's it's totally huge. And I do want to, back up a tiny bit when I said, like, I get the mix 80% and send it to them. I'm not just saying, like, oh, haphazardly, like, what do you guys think? I don't know, like, is this cool? Like, it's like, no, this is a vibe I think is cool. What do you think? Like, I do say it, like, like, I'm happy with this vibe, but please tell me what you think. It's more of a, and again, like, each of us, we should continue doing what we're doing, because clearly it's working for both of us. Is Or maybe it's working for you better than me, but I'm saying that, like, hey, like, I like this. What do you think? And I'm still trying to instill the confidence of, this is a cool direction, but I'm inviting them into that process to kind of join me and communicate back. And that's kind of maybe what my little side of this industry is that kind of communication thing of inviting them back in the room to communicate with me. And but I love what you said about bringing people on Zoom, at least for the mixing session. I feel like that's a throwback, and I haven't heard about that in a long time. And it used to be fun for me to kind of get mixes started with artists in the room, and I haven't done that in forever. So you're making me nostalgic.
Yeah, there's a free software that you can download because it's still in beta mode called Muse. I think it's like Muse Sessions. It's free, and I've been using that recently to send over sessions in so they can participate in me. I kind of do the 80% thing actually as much as I can. I prefer to do that, but the way that I do that is I mix most of the song at first, and then I send them, like, the Zoom or the Muse invite link, and then we finish the song together so they don't have to participate in the 80% of the boring work, right?
That's
Where it's
smart.
not as entertaining for them.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
like
no,
that.
that's definitely a totally valid thing. I think is amazing. All right, I think now's the perfect time to bring up a sponsor for the show. And I
right.
know, because nobody doesn't use their stuff, which is one of the best compliments you can ever give to a sponsor of the show. Thank you. A big shout out to our sponsor, iZotope, for all of their plugins. And iZotope.com/MMPodcast. If you go there, you can get 10% off of any of their products, or they only usually offer a 7-day trial period. But if you go to iZotope.com/MMPodcast, you can extend it from 7 days to a full 30 days. So it's a longer trial period, or you get 10% off if you want to buy outright. They have monthly everything plans or subscription bundle plans, as well as just buying the plugins outright. Ben,
Yo, DK.
do you use iZotope's plugins?
Oh, of course. I use RX pretty much every single day. So
Do I need to
Yeah.
say anything else for this sponsor? I mean, I don't think there's been a single guest that's like, no, I have never used any iZotope plugins. It's just I think it's just one of those plugin sets where, like, you either pick and choose or get everything, but they're kind of like baseline must-have. There's a bunch of tools that nobody else is even making, especially with the RX stuff. Very good, like, noise reduction, cleanup tools, ozone mastering type tools that I think are very great. Low-end focus is something that, like, nobody else has that I've really been able to tell, or like master rebalance. There's like a couple tools there.
Mhm.
And then Neutron and Nectar, the vocoder, what is it, Vocal Synth. They just have a lot of
The
different
Trash.
yeah. Oh, there you go. Trash is amazing for distortion saturation.
And they have that
Um,
vinyl plugin. I don't use it often, but sometimes you need that,
Yeah, and they have a bunch of free stuff too, so go check out their website. Once again, iZotope.com/MMPodcast for their stuff. We love iZotope. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. All right. Now, on that note, Ben, we're kind of coming to the close of this episode here. Tell us more about where people can find you, your podcast, your stuff, how people can ask you questions through social media or your website. Just give us the full detailed plugs.
Yeah, I feel like I shouldn't give all the plugs, otherwise people will get lost and confused. But if you go to my website, benwallach.com, you can literally find everything. best place to connect with me is on Instagram, and you can find me at Ben Wallach Music or at Secret Sonics, the podcast. You can find Secret Sonics anywhere you get your podcasts. And I mean, Secret Sonics, I guess, is the best place to teach people to go. That way, you can kind of learn about me during the long game of just listening to a lot of episodes. It's just it's another great resource, just like the Mixing Music podcast, of learning from our peers who do what we do. And I learned something from everybody who's ever been on my show, and I'm the target audience. So if I ask questions that I think are interesting, and have banter, and very like just good schmoozes. It's a very conversational podcast, but I think it's go check it out, Secret Sonics.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, on that note, is there anything else that you want to leave us about communication? Any final words?
Yeah,
I think this is a really great episode.
I think
honestly.
we covered so much. I don't know what else to say other than just be a good communicator and be good to your clients. And if you're honest, straightforward, and you communicate all the time, you won't have any issues, or you should have very few issues.
Be honest. That's super important. Be honest. All right, y'all. On that note, if you're interested in learning more about other things that we offer, you can just go to mixingmusicpodcast.com. There's actually something new that I want to announce this episode. We're now doing subscriber-only episodes. So we have our regular content once a week, but now on Wednesday and Thursday mornings, we're going to start releasing small 5 to 15-minute portions where I have a friend of mine, Braden, who's going to be on the show later on a different episode, where he's hosting it. We're going to take clips from Mix with the Masters or different YouTube channels and get the audio from it, and he's going to break down what these other professionals are doing, and it's going to be very, very technical, because I know everybody wants more technical details and technical advice. It's going to be technical stuff. We're going to be releasing that. That's going to be available on mixingmusicpodcast.com. It's less than a cup of coffee. It's less than $5 a month. And when you subscribe, it'll open up everything, all those episodes on Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen to. So we are going to have subscriber-only content. Check that out once again at mixingmusicpodcast.com, where you can also find our other sponsors and affiliate links and whatnot. If anytime you spend money through the website, we get a kickback portion, so we appreciate any and all support. All right, so on that note, happy mixing, my friends. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us one last time. And stay saucy.
Thank you, DK.
Alrighty.
You cut my thank you there.
No, I apologize. I apologize. We'll edit it in post. All right, I'm done with the.
You got that. Should I pause my my audio recording?
Yep, we're done with the audio recording.
Perfect.
Hey, I think that was a great episode.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was so fun.
Yeah, it's weird because my podcast was never meant to be like an interview podcast. So, and I've noticed with the analytics and whatnot that people just naturally don't listen to the episodes where there's not like a theme to it. So like, and this is just my data, my personal data. So I've always kind of like, whenever there's like a guest, we try to make it about them, but it's like, we need to have something learned or some takeaway, some theme to it is kind of like my deal. So I appreciate you. I think that was a really, really great theme, a very important one. I think that you were very well communicative of the points. I think you had some great insight.
Man.
So I think it was
Yeah,
dope.
I hope it was helpful. It was fun. It was fun to schmooze about that stuff,
Yeah.
I'm always happy to schmooze about that stuff.
We'll probably release that episode. I have no idea. I'm really, really backlogged on interview episodes, so I'll probably do more than one a month, just to kind of get some of these through. But I'll let you know when it releases. But you might have to be patient with me.
I'll be patient. Not going anywhere. So, yeah, you just let me know. If you need any, anything from me, let me know. I'll send you stuff.
Sure. To be honest, I did. I did when you sent me that follow-up email, with like the form, and asking for the profile pic or asking for a picture and whatnot. I thought it was so great and so clever. I literally ripped it from you, like I copied it. So I've been sending people a follow-up email. And that's almost the exact same wording. Like almost,
Okay,
I like copy and pasted it. I changed a few things,
Perfect.
obviously, but I was like, that's so clever. That's so dope. I implemented that system right away. So same thing.
All
Like
right. I'm happy to hear that.
mostly if you just send me an email with like a picture that I can use,
And I'll send you a file pass link with the. Or do you have an upload link that you'd prefer I
you can just
use?
send me
To...
yours. I don't really
Okay,
have like
cool.
a upload one, so you can just send me yours.
I had an
Although I think
issue
I
with.
do. I did create an upload file link through the email, but you can just send me yours.
So I'll send you mine, but just keep in mind when you sent me yours, it actually wouldn't open on if I'm because I'm logged onto FilePass on my computer on my Chrome. It wouldn't like open your link.
Yeah, so I
So I
open
had
it
to do it
incognito.
incognito.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. And
No,
that
yeah, I've
works.
had
That
that a
makes
couple
sense.
times before, which is interesting. But
Yeah.
yeah, FilePass is. I need to do a better job plugging them too, because I think you have the same thing where you have like an affiliate link with them.
So yeah, I have it's just it's not a I'm not getting any kickbacks from them. But Brian's paying me for ad time. So
Oh, that's dope.
it's
That's dope. Yeah, my thing is the way
so
that I'm doing it is just kickback.
that's smart. I probably should have done that.
Well,
Who
well,
knows?
it's not.
But
I can 99.999% promise you that you're making more money because I
uh-huh.
have not done a very good job promoting the FilePass thing. But the difference between mine is like consistent every month as long as they're subscribed.
Right. That's great. So for me, he's like paying me, I don't know, like maybe $50 an episode, to read like a 1 minute ad, and yeah, I mean we'll see. Like if the show grows a lot, then I can up the price. But for now, and if it works for him, if he's getting customers, but I wouldn't have done FilePass if I wasn't using FilePass. Although I have not actually used EasyFunnels because I just don't want to build a website right now. But I'm also doing EasyFunnels.
Same.
Uh, but
I
it seems great.
I literally just finished building the In the Mix Studios website when he like came out with Easy Funnels, and I'm like, I literally just spent dozens of hours, like
Oh man.
tens of hours doing this. I'm not gonna do it again.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You're not gonna like, man, redoing a website, that's working. And maybe my website isn't working. That's a different question. But
It's
that,
weird. I kind
yeah.
of I've been tempted to just move everything over for like new clients, not for existing ones. For new clients, moving everything over to Engineers because it's good. But the
Engineer.
problem that I've heard with the systems, with like the user experience with Engineers, if you've heard of that, which is Mixed by Ali's platform, it's really great.
Mm.
I think it's like it's just so much communication is going on that it kind of tires out the clients. Where
Mhm.
it's like they make very clear, okay, it's this extra if you deliver it this many days late or whatever, and revisions and all the policies and everything. Just they're kind of basically filling in all the cracks to make sure that there's no miscommunication about everything, kind of saving their own asses or the engineers' asses. But it's just so much information that like clients sometimes will get burned out halfway through the process. But I don't
Yeah.
like. For me, I still get a lot of like new or like one-off clients, and I kind of want to turn them off to the idea of hiring me. So that's part of the reason why. Again, like I say no to most of my people, like half of my people. So like,
You create
I'd
a lot
rather-
of friction.
yeah, I like not friction, but I read the room or I read the email, and then I immediately be like, nah, we're not gonna work well. Like, sorry, no, or like pass it off. I do have the one nice thing about email is like I pass it off. Be like, there's someone cheaper than me, and I take a commission from whenever I pass it off, like a
Yeah.
finder's fee. So like I make some money off of them, but I don't have to deal with them. And to be honest, financially, I should be saying yes to everybody. But I'm a weirdo, and I'd rather be poor living out of a box than to work with clients that I don't like. So
Yeah. Clients that you don't like totally can bring you down. That stuff eats at you when you're, just trying to hang out with your spouse or,
Yeah.
whatever. Like-
for me, my biggest flex is, I think I told you this before. My biggest flex, most people flex how much money they make. My biggest flex is how much little money I spend and how much time I spend with my family, which is
Yeah, man.
I can blow people's mind with how little I spend.
I spend very little money also. We are very frugal.
Yeah,
That's how we're kind of staying in business. I'm in the low overhead kind of business these days.
Same.
but,
And to be honest, like, well, with the studio In the Mix is unfortunately it has to be a high overhead because I'm renting in Los Angeles. It's ridiculous, right? But I'm in the part of If I can afford $3,000 a month for an apartment, I'll probably get an apartment that's $1,500 to $2,000. Like, my dad,
Mhm.
this is a good example. One of the few things, my dad was an ass father, but one of the few, he was a financially very good person, good finances. One of the biggest lessons that he ever taught me was in the last few years, he moved to a new house, I think like 3, 4, 5 years ago. And maybe less than 5 years ago, like 3 years ago. He was approved for a over $3 million mortgage. So if he
Wow.
wanted to, he could have gotten like a $3 million house. So doing well financially, right? He bought a $500,000 home when he was approved for 6 times as much. And $500,000 is like a decent home. Like, it's big enough, but it's not over necessities. And I think that was
I
like
guess
a big
it
lesson.
depends where you're buying, right?
Yeah,
But-
yeah, right. Utah is growing right now. That's where he moved to, is growing. So like 500,000 for like a home in Utah is still like middle class.
Mhm.
But it's I think that was like a great point where not overspending, staying within your budgets. I'm very Buddhist about that, where it's like being happy with what I have.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah, totally. I'm with you, man. I try not to want too much. We try to stay. We're not big spenders. Let's
I
put
mean,
it that way.
overhead is what kills businesses too. Like, I forgot the crazy statistic where it's like most businesses die because they couldn't maintain their overhead. They kept raising it or something like that. So I think it's super smart.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever see Parks and Recreation, the show?
Only parts of it. I have not watched it all the way through.
There's a hilarious episode with Tom Haverford and John Ralphio start a business, and their overhead is just like absurd. They just like do the stupidest business possible. They have like 0 clients, and they're spending money to have like influencers and basketball players hang out at the office, and it's amazing. It's like a lesson on exactly what not to do if you ever want to start a business. So
There you
don't
go.
do that. But it's hilarious. It's well done. It's just such a good show.
Anyway,
Highly recommend.
That's it
If
for
there's
today.
anybody on this Twitch stream,
There you go. Parks and Rec. I'm sure we have a couple comments. What up, Band Reject? I'm always here so late. I have to catch up on the episode on Spotify. What up, Farzam? Woo! Well done, lads. Congratulating us. It's yeah. We have another episode later today. Actually, you know who the guest is today? I've never done 2 guests in a row. But we also don't usually record until like 2 in the afternoon. But I know
I might have made a special late night for you had you told me that. But
yeah, no, it's cool. But at 2:30 we
Another
actually have
time.
Leslie Brathwaite coming in.
no
At
shit,
2:30, yeah.
I'm like opening the show for him. This is like a warm up. This is awesome.
Yeah. So well, it's gonna be in a few
Oh,
hours. So
amazing.
at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So in about an hour and a half, I'll start streaming, and he'll join in about 2 hours. So like I
Wow.
stream for about 30 minutes before we actually get the guest on usually. And in your case, this is like the first time ever that the guest was on from the beginning.
Amazing.
But yeah, so I'm excited that it's been
Wow.
3 years, and I finally had the guts to just ask him.
Yeah,
And of course, he said yes.
that's
so I'm
amazing.
excited.
You got to just ask people. That's a lesson that I learned doing my podcast was, you got to just reach out even if they say no. And I just reached out to like Jakir King, and on Instagram, and then I realized, why did I reach out to him on Instagram? Like, we're actually Facebook friends with him. I should Facebook message him, and then he'll probably see it. And then I've had like some of his colleagues on, so why wouldn't he say yes? You know what I mean? So I'm gonna go do that, Jakir, if you're
And to be
somehow
honest,
watching this.
yeah, there you go. And to be honest, like, it's funny. Like, most companies, especially if you reach out to recently, I've been charging for companies to if they reach out to me, I charge them to be on the show. But if I go up to them, then it's oh, what was I saying? Oh, it's great because well, hold on, that was not where I was gonna go. But oftentimes these companies actually have like a marketing spend budget where they have to spend that money. So there's like weird things that you could do there, and people do as well. So like, and as like podcast influencers, like I don't feel bad about asking people to come out because it's free PR. Like, it is just PR for them, and it's great. And people
Yeah.
spend hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars a month for individuals for PR stuff. So like, yo, it's in your best interest to say yes, even if I'm a dick. Even if you hate me, you want to do this. I promise you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just talk about yourself. Here's an opportunity,
Yeah.
get on the air,
So we have
most people want to say yes to podcasting. That's from my experience.
yeah.
It's hot right now. People like the concept of podcasting. People want to be on podcasts.
Yeah.
If you reach out, if you do a hard reach, there's a good chance they'll come on your show.
Have you heard of the book The Third Door?
No,
This is a
tell
new
me about
book.
it.
So my CEO of Launchpod Media that I talked about on our episode is
Third
recommended
Door.
this book to me. I haven't read it yet. To be honest, I have way more other books that I want to get into first, but it's about a dude that was able to get interviews with celebrities. And he says basically that there's two doors. The first is the front door, asking them directly, which is not possible for most people. Ask them through their back end, so like through their management or offering some sort of deal for them. And then he says that there's a third door of how to meet these people and get an interview with them. And he talks about how he's been able to get these crazy exclusive interviews with very impossible to meet people through getting access to them through the third door. So it's about that, like how to get high level interviews. And
Yeah,
might be interesting,
that's sick.
but I haven't read
I'll
that yet.
give you
I'm not-
my 2 pieces of my 2 cents of wisdom here is because I sent you that survey. Like I was able to kind of spider wave my way around the industry a bit by just asking people who came on my show to recommend other people, and slowly and very much a long game, and not asking anybody to do special favors, but just by being a good hang and building relationships with people and being a genuine person, I was able to get to the highest, places in the industry eventually. It took a while, but it was just like, okay, cool. I met this guy. I reached out to this person cold who came on the show, who introduced me to this person in Chicago, who introduced me to this person in LA, introduced me to this person in LA, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you're you're interviewing big people. And like I got to Vance Powell through Matt Boudreau from Working Class Audio, who I, had LinkedIn like a year earlier, just say, hey, I love your show. Thanks for accepting my friend request on LinkedIn. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And then a year later, I was like, hey, like Matt, I have this podcast. I love what you do. Like, I'd love to have you on my show. And I had him on my show. And then he's like, yeah, I'll introduce you to Vance. And just by being like genuine person, having a good conversation and, establishing a relationship, and so it's like, bam, now you're talking to, I don't know how many Grammys he has, like maybe 7,
So it's funny. Yeah, no, for sure. And it's funny where I have built such an awesome platform and it's doing really well. The podcast is doing super well, but you're probably like the second podcast ever that I've been interviewed on. The first one being Six Figure Home Studio, when it was called Six Figure Home Studio.
Right. I was trying to find your episode, and I only realized after our interview that you had been there. And I remember, Launchpod Media, you had talked about your podcasting company on the show, and I was trying to find that episode. I could not find it.
Oh, really?
you
I
remember
wonder if it's still there.
What episode was? Do you know what episode it was? It must still be there. I don't think they deleted anything.
Let me see. Figure.
I couldn't Google it. I tried.
They changed the name to Six Figure Creative first off, and it was below 150.
Yeah. Oh, here.
It was mine was like
No.
it was about like how to build a pandemic proof business or something like that.
Yes, that was it. But I'm not finding it on Google. And if I go to does this
Unless they took
stream?
it off,
This
which
Twitch stream stays live, I'm assuming, right?
yeah, we're still live.
It
If
stays
anybody
live
wants to
after
ask
we
us
end it,
questions,
right?
please do. Please
just,
do ask us questions.
Let's see. Google Podcasts. I'm the weirdo that uses Google Podcasts.
I don't see. No. 124, number 124. How the virus-resistant audio business, a full-service podcast agency with Launchpod Media. So it's not under my name.
Oh,
It's me, but it's not under my name.
got it. Six Figure Creative. Launchpod. Wait, you were about to say something else.
Yeah, so it's
Here
it's
it is.
124.
Oh,
Yeah, they don't ever put my name on it. Drats.
punks. Come on, Brian.
It's all right. I'm their
No offense, Brian.
they're probably the largest like educational podcast in the music industry. Well, they were. We're like I started after them, and it's not as good. My stuff is just not as niche as theirs. I talk more about business than I should on this podcast. That's all I'm saying. So, like the whole subscriptions, like the secret episodes or like the subscriber episodes that I will be introducing in the next little bit, those are all super technical stuff, super technical episodes, which is going to be really good for that because so many people have been asking for technical episodes, and I'm just mostly want to talk about philosophy and business.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like, yeah, I wanted to talk about technical at the beginning of my podcast, and then eventually it just kind of got philosophical and business like you. And it's just like, there's only so many things you can ask about, setting compressors or, how you set your, side chain to something or like eventually that kind of gets boring and you run out of questions and you run out of things to talk about. But when you kind of leave the floor open to philosophy or whatever, it's limitless,
Absolutely. All right, dude. Well, I think I'm gonna eat some lunch and prepare for this next interview. I appreciate you getting on and saying live.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for inviting me on. This was really, really fun, and your show's great. So keep it up.
Thank you. All right. Well, just email me your audio file and as well as like a picture that I can use, and I think that'll be it.
All right, dope, man. I'll send you a couple photos. You can decide.
Sweet.
Or should I just send you one? Whatever you tell me.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, one or two. It doesn't matter. I can pick. I'm really happy to pick.
Okay, cool. I think I'm at the point where I need to start doing like a photo shoot here or something. But I'll send you what I have.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, dude.
Bye.
Peace. Bye.
All right, y'all. Hold on one second, y'all. What up? What up? Okay, so stick around. We'll be live again in about an hour and a half. And in an hour and a half, we'll be live again. We'll be interviewing Leslie Brathwaite this time. And stay saucy.